Welcome. You're listening to Ask the Doulas, a podcast where we talk to experts from all over the country about topics related to pregnancy, birth, postpartum, and early parenting. Let's chat.
Hello. This is Kristin with Ask the Doulas, and I am thrilled to chat with Ashley Brichter today. Ashley is the founder and CEO of Birthsmarter, the founder of Plumline, and co-founder of Move Your Marriage. Ashley is a certified fair play facilitator, birth and postpartum doula, and lactation counselor who has worked with families, healthcare professionals, and mission-driven organizations nationwide. Ashley still pops into the classroom and occasionally teaches all of the Birthsmarter's classes. She lives outside New York City with her son, Emilio, and her daughter, Magdalena, and is rarely off. If she's not building a company, she's probably renovating something, reorganizing something, or dreaming up the next big idea. Ashley won the 2026 Grazing Board Extraordinaire Fundy Awards for bringing small pieces together and making something greater than the sum of their individual parts. Welcome, Ashley.
Thank you so much for having me, Kristin. That bio
It's so different than a lot of other birth and baby professionals' vision for their business. And you are both virtual and in person, but you have a great newsletter series and your recent newsletter about how childbirth classes are not competing against each other, because you and I, we both offer similar services, but we're competing against time. So I would love to dive into that topic if you're down for it, Ashley.
I think that I will say about Birthsmarter, and part of why we love collaborating with everybody in the perinatal space, is that so many people who build businesses around support for the perinatal period really offer a lot of what families need. They're offering birth doula services and postpartum doula services and lactation and childbirth ed and all of that. And Birthsmarter over the last almost 10 years has really niched down into the education space. And I was an educator before anything else, before I entered the birth world. And so that's where my passion lies, is in curriculum and pedagogy and designing coursework, actually. And I get to do it in a place that I really care about, which is where people are becoming parents. But I feel like I set out in the early 2000s to market on behalf of childbirth education. That was my mission. I think that it's really important that people are taking classes, and how do we figure out how to get that word out so that it's not like an outdated concept of.
And we are competing not only against time, but I find that with YouTube and TikTok and social media, people feel like they can get their education from a short video, but nothing replaces a comprehensive class that involves the couple as a whole over just reading a book or watching a TikTok about comfort measures for labor, for example.
Yeah, I think it really depends on someone's starting place. What we were trying to articulate is that when you're pregnant, especially for the very first time, you don't know what you don't know. And if you grow up in a community that has an innate trust in birth, you might think, all right, well, I'm pregnant and everybody gets pregnant and then they all go and they have their babies and maybe it's just going to be fine. Or if you have kind of inherent fears and insecurities, you might think, well, I'm working with my doctor and I'm really nervous and I just want to trust them and I don't want to know anything else. I don't want to know more than I need to know because it's going to make me feel worried. And in either of those camps, childbirth education doesn't seem particularly attractive. And when you're pregnant, there's a bombardment of tasks that build up on the to-do list. Your weekends very quickly get eaten up, especially when you are in the window where a comprehensive class makes sense, which is typically between 28 and 34 weeks. So what's hard is before anybody in our space can say, everybody should just be out here saying, hold on, there are some things that you really need to know in order to have this experience go well. And the way we talk about it is ensuring that it's not outcome oriented, is not about unlocking the goal of having an unmedicated vaginal birth necessarily. In my mind, that's not the best use of time, because it can lead to a lot of disappointment when plans change. We call it the pregnant opportunity. Having a baby is a time when you can learn about stress management, you can learn about anatomy and physiology, you can learn about your posture and your alignment, you can learn about interacting with a big medical system, you can really get to know your partner in a totally different way and figure out how you guys want to communicate with each other physically, verbally, and non-verbally. And all of those lessons serve you in your life, in postpartum and parenting and work. And so that's really where we're coming from.
And the fact that you're a fair play facilitator probably leads your custom classes to involve a lot of partner communication and much more than, say, a typical hypnobirthing class or Lamaze would have.
Where partner support is part of every single lesson that we're teaching. What we do at Birthsmarter, the difference in the approach we take around partners is that we teach partners not because they're supporting someone who's giving birth. We teach partners because they're there becoming parents. And the experience of being in a stressful environment where there are doctors or midwives or nurses, doulas, where there's sweat, there's moisture, there's sounds, all of that for a human being waiting for their baby to be born is a lot. And they deserve the education and the preparation and the emotional and physical support in order to stay kind of regulated, right, through that experience in order to welcome their baby. Of course, we're teaching partners the hip squeeze, and we're teaching partners how to do some breath coaching and all of that for the person in labor. But we also are taking like a bird's eye view and saying like, wait, you are important for your own. And we're going to teach you what you need to know to be successful and how to transfer labor and delivery into the postpartum experience. So it's a little bit of the modern day take on what the Bradley method really offered us, which is partners are clutch. And Fair Play was a system for dividing the domestic load, the mental load between adults in a home, and saying, hey, I don't want to be responsible for thinking about and executing all of the things that make our life wonderful. We need to really share the load here. And so we take that approach to dishes and laundry and planning vacations, and we apply it to labor prep and postpartum.
I love involving the partner as much as possible. And I agree. It's more than just the hip squeezes and physical support. It's the whole process of becoming a parent, whether it's baby 1 or baby 5. Every birth is different, every situation. I mean, clients may be attempting a VBAC, a vaginal birth after cesarean, for example. So they would prepare differently than a student who is having a home birth, for example. I work with a lot of growing families, and one thing I've noticed is that dads and partners often need support and comfort too, especially during those busy newborn days and long summer schedules. Whether it's heading to work, helping with bedtime, traveling, or just trying to feel put together while running on less sleep, comfort matters. That's why I wanted to share the Cozy Earth Everywhere Pant and Everyday Polo just in time for Father's Day. These are the kind of pieces dads actually reach for every day because they're comfortable, breathable, lightweight, and polished without trying too hard. I hear from families all the time that they want clothing that can keep up with real life, and this set really does. And why not look into making life even easier and buy multiple pairs in different colors that can be dressed up, worn casually with sneakers. They just work for everyday life. What also stands out to me is that Cozy Earth backs their clothing with a lifetime warranty and hassle-free returns, which says a lot about the quality and makes families' lives easier. Summer should feel easy for everyone in the house. Cozy Earth's bamboo sheet set, Everywhere Pant, and Everyday Polo are designed to keep him cool, comfortable, and actually relaxed all summer long. So think of Cozy Earth for Father's Day. Head to cozyearth.com, use my code GOLDCOAST for an exclusive 20% off. That's code GOLDCOAST for 20% off. And if you see a post-purchase survey, mention that you heard about Cozy Earth on the Ask the Doulas podcast.
Childbirth education as an offering is still fairly new in human history. It only really became popular in the 1940s. Some classes were a little bit earlier, but there was a real response to the turn of the century, bringing birth into the hospital in the United States, and then using twilight sleep, which became really popular in the early 1900s. Childbirth education was really from some European philosophies. The idea that we can go back. Birth doesn't have to be super painful. It doesn't have to be super scary. It doesn't have to be super medicalized. And if we teach you a little bit about what it's like ahead of time, we can counter this kind of growing fear in the United States around the experience. And the movement of early Lamaze classes and then early Bradley method classes was hugely successful.
Exactly. I mean, my parents took Lamaze when they were pregnant with me in the mid-70s. And I ended up taking it not once with back-to-back babies, twice because I'm a type A, and felt like the education was worth it, but also getting my husband to remember a lot of the comfort measures. Even though I had doulas the second time around, I still wanted to prepare in that way. And I also loved the bonding of an in-person class and made so many fantastic friends who were going through the same thing at the same time as me. We ended up having outings, and I'm still in touch with friends from both of my Lamaze classes.
The top, if not top 3 reasons people take an in-person class is to try and meet other folks who are pregnant, or even if you're not going to be friends with them, is to see other pregnant people, to normalize pregnancy and to hear the questions they're asking and to see how couples are interacting with each other. There's so much learning that comes from those unspoken group dynamics. And I think it just can help put you at ease because especially, right, if we teach a ton of people who are pregnant for the first time and they're the first of their friend group to get pregnant and they feel really lonely. I think that to some extent, when I talk to folks, if they call to book a class at Birthsmarter, I think Lamaze has become like the Kleenex of childbirth education. Like it's so the biggest name that folks will call us all the time. And they're like, I need a Lamaze class. Is that what you do? And it's like, well, no, I'm not Lamaze certified. I actually do. We have Lamaze certified educators at Birthsmarter who, they did the 3-day or week-long training with Lamaze, and then they did our longer training and wanted to teach the Birthsmarter curriculum. But it was like, if we break down, here's what Lamaze is, right? Here's what Lamaze is offering. Lamaze is offering kind of agnostic approach to teaching you your options when it comes to labor and delivery in a group setting with other pregnant people and snacks and all that. Like, yeah, that's exactly what we offer. So it's just a different brand of tissue. And hypnobirthing is going to be really similar. And then there are people who are just individuals in their community who have kind of created their own beautiful curriculum of things that they find value. Maybe there's a little bit more inspiration from yoga poses. Maybe there's a little bit more mindfulness and meditation. Maybe there's a little bit more about a specific hospital or VBAC, like you said. Best case scenario is individuals or couples are saying, what we're going to do is dedicate a day or 2 days or a few evenings, 3, 4, 5 weeks in a row to just taking a breath together.
Right. And a lot of childbirth classes also cover the birth plan or birth preference sheet and understanding potential interventions and understanding what your body is doing, not only in the stages of labor, but also in pregnancy. And so there's so much more than just the basic prepping for pushing, for example.
There's pelvic floor therapy, I think is critical for almost everybody, not everybody, but almost everybody who's pregnant and postpartum should try to find pelvic floor therapy in their area. It's changed my life. It's changed so many people's lives that I know. I am much stronger years after having a baby now because I truly know how my core and pelvic floor work together, and I can keep my back safe. I can keep my hips safe, like all of these things. That said, there are a lot of people who are in the pelvic floor therapy world who are teaching more and more birth preparation courses. And like, that's what they call it. And they do these series on social media about birth preparation. And they are very specifically talking about, hey, we're going to teach you how to connect with your pelvic floor so that your pelvic floor has a lower likelihood of tearing during the pushing phase of birth. And that's important. And that is not comprehensive childbirth education. And it's really hard to get that nuance across in 10 seconds on social media.
100% agree. I'm so glad that you mentioned that because, yeah, it is so different. And there's, the body ready method and a lot about alignment, but that is different than a comprehensive childbirth class.
When folks are coming to us, they are getting frameworks for how to make decisions in the moment. We really prioritize what we call the Birthsmarter framework, which is, okay, there's no one right way to do this. We're going to teach you about the physiological process. We're going to teach you about the societal context. We're going to teach you how to think about your own personal circumstance so that you're not comparing yourselves to people out there making different decisions, right? Because everybody is a little bit different. We go over the BRAIN acronym, which is important for everybody pregnant, right? So if you're faced with, is it time to get an epidural? Should we be induced? Are they going to break my water? What are the benefits? What are the risks? What are the alternatives? What does your instinct or intuition tell you? Do we have to do that now or do I have more time? And that is something that is not unique to Birthsmarter. Most childbirth education classes are covering things like that to say like, okay, how can I kind of slow down and think about this? But then we're also giving you some history, like, yeah, sure, we want to think about the stages of labor. Absolutely, it's important to understand progression. But if birth can look so many different ways, for us at Birthsmarter, it's like really physiologically explaining why things happen. So we are constantly referencing the fact that oxytocin, our love, trust, bonding hormone, that's the trigger for contractions. That means that we have to feel safe in order for the labor process to start and then continue. We want contractions to come. We want them to get longer, stronger, and closer together. And if that's driven by essentially a pleasure hormone, if we're scared and tense, then that'd be counterproductive. So we do the physiology lesson in a way that it explains why breath, why comfort measures, why self-advocacy, why choosing a right provider, why potentially having a midwife, potentially really important choices. When you go into certain classes and they're like, okay, well, here's a hip squeeze and here's how to do a slow dance and you should hire a doula, and people don't understand why, like physiologically, how that might impact the hormones of labor, it's not going to stick as well 2 months down the road when they actually have their first contraction.
So true. And yeah, if they take it earlier in pregnancy and they don't practice at home, then it's all gone. There might be a little worksheet or workbook, but it's not the same.
Well, it's interesting because somebody did ask me that last week, actually. They were like, how early can I take class? And I think just because Birthsmarter has grown, we're teaching many more people than I did. When I started teaching, I taught one class every month and I had anywhere between 9 and 12 couples in it. And so at the end of the year, I was like, I can't believe I taught 150 couples. That's like, I'm awesome. And now we're teaching 150, 200 couples a month. And it's like, oh my God, it's a lot of people that we're educating. And
That's amazing, Ashley.
So thank you. Yeah, it's really fun. It's such an honor to be part of people's lives in this way. But we get to see so many more people, Kristin. Like we had a couple come to class and it was all of the teachers were crying on our team meeting. They were in the fertility journey. She hasn't been able to get pregnant for 2 years. She's doing another round of IVF. And somebody, I don't know who, somebody said, why don't you go to a birth class? Why don't you sit in a room full of pregnant people and just like soak up the good vibes? And she did. And we were like, this is the first time we've ever taught a couple who's not currently pregnant. And then a few months ago, I popped into a class to like rearrange props in the classroom. And there was a couple in there and they had just hit the 12-week mark. They got good anatomy scan at 12 weeks. And she was like, I'm so anxious. I'm taking this class now. And then I'm watching the on-demand class later, but I need to know what I'm walking into. Wow. Okay. And then we have people literally do 3 days after class because they're like, somebody just told me about it. So we're coming in and we're going to just take what we can. But to your point about practice, it's like the first thing is take class whenever you can fit it in, right? You can always, and earlier is better because you can always refresh yourself, but it's never too late. And then we say this all the time, you labor how you live, right? And you will not use what you do not practice. So come to class to practice some breathing, to get into some positions, to understand why it's important. And then the work is putting it on your calendar. And it's both having 20-minute kind of practice sessions, but it's also adjusting your habit. We want everybody to throw their breakfast chair at the kitchen table in the garbage and put the birth ball right there. So when you wake up in the morning and you're sitting to eat breakfast or you're working on your computer from home, you're just sitting on the birth ball. You don't have to go get the birth ball out to practice labor positions. The ball just becomes part of your life, right? It becomes part of how you watch TV. It becomes how you move around, going for micro movement breaks, what you're eating, staying hydrated, all of these things, breathing when you get really stressed. This is what we want you to practice throughout the day to really integrate it into how your body functions.
Hey, Alyssa here. I'm just popping in to tell you about our course called Becoming. Becoming a Mother is your guide to a confident pregnancy and birth, all in a convenient 6-week online program. From birth plans to sleep training and everything in between, you'll gain the confidence and skills you need for a smooth transition to motherhood. Live coaching calls with me and Kristin, tons of expert videos including chiropractic care, pelvic floor physical therapy, mental health experts, breastfeeding, and so much more. You'll also get a private Facebook community with other mothers going through this at the same time as you to offer support and encouragement when you need it most. If you'd like to learn more about the course, you can email us at info@goldcoastdoulas.com or check it out at thebecomingcourse.com. We would love to see you there. We also have a book called Supported, Your Guide to Birth and Baby, which makes a beautiful companion to this course. It's a great book for any expecting mother and is the perfect baby shower gift. You can find information on that book at supportedbook.com.
I love it. And the pregnancy practice is legit. And we offer hypnobirthing at Gold Coast Doulas. And so that is very much focused on evening rituals, relaxation, mindfulness, and partner involvement. We find that our students take it earlier in pregnancy, but they also are committed to practicing. We'll occasionally get some closer to the due date that feel rushed, but I agree that it's not just about taking a comprehensive class, but it's also about practicing breathing and the labor positions and the communication, and again, understanding how to optimize what your body's doing at every stage in labor.
I do think that if people are on the fence about, can we sacrifice the time? Sometimes it's the money, but I think there are so many low-cost options out there. We have alternative pricing in all of our classes. So people just fill out a form on our website and they can take a class for as little as $25. And I know there are other local classes that will always offer scholarships and things like that. But so sometimes people think money is an issue. Often there's actually insurance coverage or HSA coverage. So I feel like we can make the finances work. And that's why that's the newsletter I wrote. It's like, it really is time. What I want to say to your point about those nightly meditations is I want people to take it out of, this is homework we have to do. This feels like another thing that we have to add to our list, something we have to check off. And actually, if you're taking a valuable class, like a class that people in your community have been like, yes, this was super worth it. And you want those people to have had a vaginal birth, had an induction, had a C-section, like no matter how the baby comes out, universally, people are like, no, the class was still helpful. It's because what you're learning in that class is going to help you be a better person, right? Like what I want to remember from classes I took that had hypnobirthing elements to it when I was pregnant is if I'm feeling kind of rattly, I want to go and put on a meditation that is a helpful skill for me, right? And how can I have the metaphor of, oh, I'm about to have a baby, but I'm doing something really hard apply when I'm physically sick, if I have the flu or if I have stomach poisoning, and hey, I'm going to use all these strategies. The funniest example I give people sometimes, but if you're not a parent already, it doesn't track. But I've used all of my doula skills potty training my kids. All of the times that you just have to sit with them when they're learning how to like have a bowel movement on the toilet. And you're just like, it's okay if it takes a long time. You're fine. You're going to just let your body rest. We're just going to sit here and breathe through it.
It's like being a birth doula.
Exactly.
Supporting the labor. Oh, I love it.
So, it's like learning how to sit with discomfort and physical and emotional discomfort is like, we all need that right now to live, to cope with the world. I don't know. I'm like such a birth class junkie because you learn such cool stuff that's not about like, this is where the ice machine is. And that's something to say. I don't know what your experience is in your area, but definitely in New York City, there are some teachers in the hospitals who teach a really great birth class, but in general, a lot of it is here's how you can be a good patient and here's kind of what you need to know about the lay of the land in the hospital. So it's the hospital classes themselves are a little hit or miss.
I agree. For us, it depends on the hospital, but it's more about how to be a patient and understand the policies and procedures, and it's more generalized for the average patient than for the unique goals of every couple.
It's so interesting because you said a VBAC versus a home birth. Childbirth education can be somewhat geared to your environment, but there are some universal elements. And I don't know, I just think that, also the other point I will say about it, and I don't know if you hear this because you match people with doulas, is people who are like, oh, I don't need a birth class because I'm hiring a doula.
Oh, yes. It's so frustrating, but need the classes. It's like you think that if you hire a lactation consultant, for example, that you don't need to take a breastfeeding class, but having the partner understand how to support and having that practice with whole pre-baby when your brain can absorb the information versus after baby's there and you're stressed out and exhausted. So I believe that it's not one or the other. It can be both. Or if you don't have the budget for a birth doula, I'm always leaning more toward the childbirth education and supporting the partner.
Yeah, 100%. And one of the things that we've been really excited to see recently is a number of doulas in New York City where we do most of our in-person classes in New York City and Salt Lake City. And we have a few teachers scattered around the country and other locations who teach occasionally. And then we offer classes virtually. But in New York City, there are a number of doulas who now have written into their package that they will only work with Birthsmarter students because it's like, we just need to speak the same language and it's much easier. They take the class and then they do the first prenatal visit. And then on the prenatal visit, they kind of go over everything. They make it much more personalized. And that's like the happiest marriage for us because we can do like a 1-day intensive class. And then you go and you bring your doula any questions that you didn't get to answer because we're not doing an 8-week series. And then they have their second visit. And then it's like everybody's on the same page when they go into labor and delivery. And that's been really awesome to see is how doulas love working with clients who have the education and they're not putting all that pressure on that first prenatal visit with a doula to be like, okay, well, teach me everything I need to know.
Exactly. When I was a new doula, I used to give $100 off to my clients who took a comprehensive childbirth class because it made my job so much easier. They didn't have to choose just the class I taught, be any class. Yeah. Bradley, your class, whatever, because I know that they're going to go into it more prepared and my prenatal visits are not going to be as education focused and it's more about getting to know them and their goals. And yes, so as a doula, I'm certainly for whatever choices families make, but I try to steer them toward childbirth education.
It's funny when we all show up and try to be incredibly non-judgmental. And here's the one area where we're like, yeah, but this is really important. But of course, we're being judgmental about learning your options, right? Not about choosing the option. We also love when doulas come audit our classes doulas anywhere are invited to audit our virtual classes or in-person classes if anybody's in the area. And that's a really nice way too, because there are incredible doulas out there, just like there are incredible birth educators out there, but there is a high burnout rate because it's an incredibly challenging profession. And so for newer doulas, they might not really know the value of childbirth education. And the best way to learn, I think, is to just come and sit in on class and see what they're learning and what parents are asking. And I would encourage any doula also to kind of audit the options in their local community so that they can make a really good recommendation.
That's a good point, Ashley. And I know when I went through my 2 birth doula certifications, they both required me to audit a comprehensive childbirth class, but there are so many more training organizations now, and many of them do not require that.
Many of them do not. Nope.
Yeah. It's a shame because it's so important to have that additional education. Doula trainings don't teach you everything you need to know, and also to be able to realize the differences between the different childbirth classes and how to meet the goals and understand what your clients want to take from each class. So if a doula doesn't understand hypnobirthing or Birthsmarter or Bradley, then how can they truly support how the client has prepared?
Well, and it goes back to like exactly the same thing we're saying about being pregnant, which is that for better or worse, we are all kind of consumers at this point in our country, right? We're like consumers of medical treatment. We're consumers of information. Part of being a consumer is really understanding what the options are and understanding how to get the right fit. It's totally different if you live in a tiny community that has one midwife and you know you're too far from a hospital and you're going to have a home birth and somebody's had a ton of babies around you. And that's just what happens. Like the midwife in the area comes to you, which is how a lot of humans were born in the past. And that's not how most of us live now. Most of us live in a city with a few major hospitals. Maybe there's a birth center, there's some home birth midwives. And it can feel overwhelming. And I think one of the things I want to say, I understand as a human how avoidance is a way of coping with overwhelm. I'm not sure what to do, so I'm going to do nothing. And I just don't want people who are pregnant to have to make that choice. Because there are folks like you and I who would happily, I don't charge for consults because we don't sell doulas. We don't match doula services, right? So if somebody called me and they were like, hey, I'm trying to decide between this class and this class. And in order for me to help them choose, we had to have a 45-minute conversation about their hopes and fears. We would have that 45-minute conversation because Birthsmarter is still a very small company. And there are so many people who go into birth work to have those conversations with people without charging them, that like we can almost get everybody who's in that avoidance place and that overwhelmed place to feeling confident in making an action-oriented decision.
Right. This has been an amazing conversation. I wish we could keep going, but any final tips for our listeners, Ashley?
Take a birth class if you're pregnant. Take it as early as possible, but it's never too late. Find a class that you can afford. Look up the reviews or ask around. And everybody should come take a class, whether you're a doula or a physical therapist, or if you work with pregnant people, you should come take childbirth ed, because I think we really are understanding doulas and midwives are essential pieces of the puzzle when it comes to solving the maternal health crisis in the United States. And childbirth education is also, and we all need to be talking about it.
Agreed. Where can our listeners and doula clients find you?
We're very easy to find. It's birthsmarter.com. It's at Birthsmarter on Instagram. We do have a small YouTube channel that's got some old content on it, but it's all really good. We're not on TikTok yet, or I don't know. And I'm just Ashley, ASHLEY at birthsmarter.com. And folks can always email me or reach out to anybody else on our small team. We are all parents and all very accessible.
And as you mentioned, Ashley, you have not only in-person classes in Salt Lake City and New York, in some select cities around the country, but also virtual options. So no matter where you live, you have the opportunity to take the different formats that you offer.
Yeah, absolutely. Our on-demand class is over 8 hours of content. It's a comprehensive childbirth class with full lessons around postpartum preparedness. We also offer newborn care and a lactation prep class on Zoom, which is really nice because you have the accountability of a time and a date and an instructor, and you get to hear from other people who are pregnant, but you don't have to leave your house. And we do a 1-day class on Zoom as well for people who want that accountability, but they want to do it for childbirth education. And we're incredibly flexible. We do private classes all the time. If you just want 3 hours with an instructor, all of our classes come with a ton of online resources on our account and a really beautiful workbook that you get to keep with you, kind of write everything down and remember it. And yeah, they're really fun. It's like Birthsmarter has hit the kind of, it's engaging and it's fun. It's a little bit entertaining, and you're going to remember what you learn a few years down the road.
I love the work that you're doing. Thank you for the impact you're making in this space. And we'll have to have you on again, Ashley.
Thank you so much for having me. I love being here.
Thanks for listening to Ask the Doulas. For more information about Gold Coast Doulas, visit us on our website, goldcoastdoulas.com. We're also on Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube. If you like this podcast, please subscribe and give us a 5-star review. Thank you. Remember, these moments are golden.